There's more symbiotes out there than just Venom, and new ones are being created left, right, and center. Saying the word symbiote is like one of my top 10 least favorite words to say because no matter what I say, I feel like I'm wrong even if I'm not. So from this point forward, I am just going to say Sim. Killmonger had his own sim called Injudaka, named after Eric Killmonger's Wakandan name. Eric became a warrior for the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, but the Emperor started getting the vibe that Eric wanted to overthrow him. To stop this from happening, he sent Eric on a mission he hoped he wouldn't come back from, as the place was crawling with shadow people, Cronins, and of course Sims. That backfired so hard, it's crazy. Not only did Eric survive, he managed to find the one sim that he could bond with because they shared a mutual hatred of the Emperor. That's kind of funny, sorry. The bonded pair did in fact put an end to the Emperor and then became the new Emperor. Eventually, you know, the bonded pair got in a big fight with T'Challa, and at the end of it, Eric was caught in an explosion of a planet's core. The body for Eric died, but the soul survived because the sim survived and carried it with it. There was a resurrection ceremony, but he did still die in the end. There was a moment when he was ridiculously powerful though. The sim on its own made Eric powerful, giving him advanced everything like speed and strength and reflexes, stamina, also a healing factor, matter generation abilities, and shapeshifting. The true power of the sim unlocked when he drained the powers of Bast. That's right, the child of Ra, Black Panther goddess, so he was truly overpowered for that era. Deadpool has been around the block, so to say, too many times to count. In every sense, this man has done everything in the Marvel Universe, including bonding to a sim. Agent Deadpool was the name taken on here, and he first appeared in 2020 on Earth 1051. To fight the Codex Hive, the Sim Soldier program was created, and Deadpool, of course, bonded with a sim because of it. Agent Deadpool has very similar powers to Venom and powerful regeneration abilities because he has the Sim's regeneration and Deadpool's regeneration. He was also decked out with lots of spikes and weapons. Rascal was originally an offshoot of Bedlam that was left to Kang the Conqueror, off to a great start there. Then the sim was sent to the 21st century on Earth 616 and hybridized with a Carnage sim sample. Then he was stolen, kidnapped by Dylan Brock and Venom, and offered to Normie Osborn so Normie could help Dylan rescue his dad. So quite the origin story, huh? Normie in the past had bonded with Carnage and didn't enjoy it, so he wasn't super stoked to bond with Rascal, but did it anyway to help his friend. Rascal made Normie appear as a red, white, and black edition of the Red Goblin. Since the sim is technically really young, he is kind of like a really dangerous toddler. He is described as naive, inquisitive, and easily distracted. Me too. He also sometimes goes into something Normie calls goblin mode. It's a feral rage. He's completely feral. Turns out that the feral rage wasn't the sim's fault, it was actually the human's fault. Was this discovered in a therapy session? Of course not. It was discovered in the heat of battle. Turns out goblin mode was just a manifestation of Normie's suppressed, deepest, darkest desires. Though the sim is young, he still has all the usual powers like strength and speed and a healing factor. Plus, his powers are very similar to what Carnage has going on since he was a hybrid of Carnage, so that means Rascal is capable of a lot of what Carnage is, like telepathy, wall crawling, webbing, among other things. Rascal can shapeshift, he turns his arms into blades. Void Knight is cool. If you heard of him, you probably agree. If you haven't, so glad I get to be your introduction. Void Knight is a proto-sim. That means, according to the Marvel Wiki, he is an experimental precursor to the parasitic sim species, rather than being sims themselves. So he is one, technically. He did die as quickly as he appeared, which is unfortunate because he looked cool. Void had one mission, one job while he was alive, and that was destroy light and life. You've heard of live, laugh, love, get ready for death, pain, and darkness. He was bonded to the Silver Surfer, so for that era of his life, he had all the Silver Surfer powers, but they were magnified by the living abyss, so Super Silver Surfer. The sim worked under Null and was apparently one of his favorites. If you want to see Void Knight's short-lived run, read Silver Surfer Black 2. So this sim has technically been around for a while. He was mentioned for the first time in 1973, but really picked up steam a few years ago in 2018. I think it is literally the coolest because it is a dragon sim. The dragon has lived a long life, like billions of years long, so don't feel too bad that it did pass away. The dragon does have a name, sorry, it's Grendel. Grendel manifested from Null's blood and actually had a sister too. The pair of them literally ransacked the universe for a long time until lucky us, they landed on Earth and picked Denmark as their home. The dragon got its Grendel title because it was mistaken as the monster dark elf Grendel. Honest mistake. His powers apparently come directly from Null, so that makes it extremely powerful because it ransacked the universe. It has the power of interstellar flight, all the usual stuff like strength and speed and stamina, and a healing factor that works really fast, and of course matter manipulation of its body to create tendrils and other related things. This particular sim has the unsettling ability to reanimate and bond with corpses. Hate that. The dragon can be affected by large quantities of electricity, so fighting Thor was tough. And also, like other sims, heat was not great for the dragon either. Not like career ending, just uncomfortable. Grendel could be killed, but up until that point it was immortal. Extreme Biote was a sim to my guy, Iron Man. He was also originally one of the dragons, so that means dragon sim powers, like being powerful enough to kill a god and everything else said in the previous point. This particular sim got some new fun abilities when it merged with an Iron Man suit and infused with the Extremis virus. The combination of the two things gave the sim the ability to project a cleansing beam. The cleansing beam was a repulsor blast that was able to cleanse the corruption from a null victim. That's useful! Extreme can also possess things. Iron Man used Extreme to override the possession Null had over a Celestial. The Celestial didn't get much of a break though, because then Extreme possessed him. The main form the sim took on was a black and yellow Iron Man looking armor, but he could shapeshift back to his true dragon form whenever he wanted to. All the way from Earth 6311 comes Warstar, one of many Type 2 battle sims that were created by Kang the Conqueror and Tyro. This sim is known for following the rules, a real stickler for protocol. He kind of resembles a robot in the way he behaves. The robot sim, he's not really a robot, is very loyal to Kang and did go up against him once, but it was a training exercise. Still, going up against Kang is tough. Not that I would know personally, but I've read about it. The sim is fun because he can take on a human-esque form without a host. He also has cybernetic enhancements to his body, at least it looks that way, that let him transform his body into various weapons, even replicating Kang's time sword. Lots of sims are sensitive to fire, but Warstar doesn't seem to have that problem, as he can turn parts of his body into a flamethrower. He debuted in Venom Volume 5, Issue 8. Serpent also debuted in Venom Volume 5, but this time it was Issue 13. Serpent started out as a mindless sample of living abyss. It soon gained consciousness from the residue of Eddie Brock's rage and bloodlust. Iconic. Imagine being filled with and expelling so much rage you spawn a sim. Though the sim gained consciousness, it was still slightly mindless and acted mainly with base instincts, so that means it went on lots of brutal rampages. Serpent also had powers from King in Black and used the last of it to escape a fight with Thor and throw its consciousness away through space and time. The physical form that was left in Remnants, and those bonded with Donald Blake and merged with Hellner. So this sim has the powers of King in Black, your average sim, and Hellner at its disposal at one point or another during its chaotic lifetime. The name Serpent shows in the thing's face. It can generate fang jaws and a long serpent-like tongue to chomp on enemies. Silence is the sim debuted in Extreme Carnage Fage, and they are a hybrid, creating using the biological data from Scream and the Antivenom serum. I love that the sims are Scream and Silence. I think that is such a good idea. Silence has a personality, good for her. Since she is a hybrid, she possesses the powers of Scream and Antivenom. So that's the usual strength, speed, agility, regeneration, but also from the Scream side of the family, trichokinesis, and from the Antivenom side of the family, presumably the body cleansing. The sim seems to be obsessed with suffering and making it stop by any means necessary, leaving only silence. According to Marvel.com, Misery is literally the newest sim in the Marvel Universe. She was introduced in Cult of Carnage Misery 1, and that happened almost 1 year ago. It's almost her birthday. Alchemax decided to study Carnage offshoots and expose them to Antivenom. Delicate work. Unfortunately, Alchemax got attacked, and CEO Liz Allen was exposed to Misery. Misery is a unique sim as she is a hybrid of Carnage and Antivenom. The Carnage and Antivenom sims hate each other and are always hoping to destroy the other, so that means Liz was gifted with a more powerful than usual healing factor. Her body is extremely malleable. She can be ripped in half and it means nothing. She can melt into a puddle and it means nothing. And her limbs can also transform into weapons. This is a little bonus because I'm not sure if it really works and there's not a lot of info on the character right now, but in the Cult of Carnage Misery comic, comics, we get introduced to Madness. Madness is made up of a bunch of Sims stolen from Alchemax: Riot, Fage, Agony, Lasher, Scream, and Toxin. Does that also not make him a new Sim? If so, I think he would be the most powerful. It looks like from the comics that he has all the powers of all 6 Sims combined, and the human host himself is a little deranged, so that's like a recipe for disaster for Madness. The character was literally described by Marvel like this: there is nowhere Liz Allen can go that Madness cannot follow, no one she can ask for help that Madness cannot destroy, and nothing she can do to stop the brutality of its onslaught. Sounds like a nightmare to me. Not everyone can handle a Sim, but some seem to be born for it. Here are the top 10 strongest Venom symbiote hosts. Eddie Brock has to be here. He is like the one. Plus, he fused Thor's hammer and Silver Surfer's board and then used that powerhouse weapon to defeat Null, the Sim god, so he's pretty up there in terms of power. This happened in the King in Black arc, which actually ended with Eddie becoming the god of the Sims after literally crushing the last little bit of Null with his bare hands. But how does one even defeat an all-powerful villain like Null? Well, you start by getting a power boost and transforming into the cosmic version of Venom. You grab Thor's hammer, which shouldn't be possible, and steal Silver Surfer's board, throw those two together, take down a Sim Celestial just for fun along the way, and then grab Null by the scruff of his neck and throw that guy into the sun. Light work, no reaction. Eddie Brock is that guy and will forever be that guy. We got a taste of a Venom-infused Hulk in Absolute Carnage Immortal Hulk, and it looked awesome. Venom is of course super strong on their own, but pair that with the brawn that is the Hulk and the brains of Banner, and that's an unstoppable force, I fear. This mashup happened because Venom was trying to defeat Carnage, and that actually didn't go well. Carnage was able to sever the bond here. Despite not lasting very long, Venom Hulk was awesome and proved himself to be a force of nature, capable of great feats of strength when given the right host. The Captain America of Earth 17,084 is actually Captain Venom, and he is as cool as you were picturing. First appearing at the end of Edge of Venomverse 1, Captain Venom has been hopping across the multiverse collecting powerful Venom variants, one of which we will talk about later. So he has an army to fight against the Poisons. The Poisons were attacking and consuming Sims and their hosts, and you can understand why that might be a problem. Captain Venom, like his 616 counterpart, is a born leader. In the Venom world, he leads the Resistance. Unfortunately, he was assimilated by a poison, but his short run was iconic, and so was the black Captain America suit. Iron Man has also crossed over into Venom territory, and this one is recent, happening in Black Widow Venomous, released this summer. Now, this Sim right now is Biotech, a fusion of Venom and of course the Iron Man armor. It's this creepy android created by Alchemax, and it somehow makes complete sense and also no sense at all. It actually stopped the Black Widow. She wasn't able to complete her mission that she was sent on there. Now, this isn't the first time that Iron Man and a Sim have been combined. Tony Stark made the Extreme Biote suit, and it's considered to be one of, if not the most popular and powerful suit he's ever designed. Tony's used that suit on multiple occasions, including in a fight against Carnage. In a twisted turn of fate, half the Guardians of the Galaxy got the chance to experience being Venom within the span of a few hours, but Drax came out on top as the most powerful of the group. Groot was the first to take on the Sim and promptly attacked the team. He was quite a sight, a huge, like, towering figure with Venom tree branches coming out. Fortunately, the Guardians were able to work together and expel the Sim. Shortly after, Rocket was possessed, and suddenly the weapon-wielding raccoon was 10 times more dangerous. Despite being very scary, both Rocket and Groot were able to be subdued by the team. The same cannot be said for when the Sim latched onto Drax. He took out the whole team, knocked out cold every single one of them, and then as they were sleeping, he piloted them to the planet of the Sims. It wasn't until the ship arrived that Drax was released. Not only was Drax incredibly powerful in this form, he also looked really creepy. This all happened in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Carol Danvers is one host Venom has literally called excellent. Miss Marvel, as she was known as at the time, was helping Spider-Man fight a Venom-infected Mac Gargan. As the fight gets harder, the two heroes brainstorm ways to end it, and Carol helpfully points out that if the guy is getting his powers from the suit, then maybe, just maybe, they should rip his suit off. Great idea in theory, but in practice, having a powerful superhero rip off a sim with her bare hands is not such a great idea, because that sim is just going to jump to the next host, and that was Miss Marvel. Venom really liked having Miss Marvel as their host due to her vast amounts of energy. Now we have a flying, supercharged sim on our hands that is seemingly leaking cosmic energy everywhere, so that's fun. Thankfully, Spider-Man was able to break the pair apart quite quickly by pushing them onto an electrical pole. Thor became the God in Black when he venomized himself in Thor Volume 6, Issue 28. Thor had been fighting Darkoth, who was already attached to a sim and had his own dark version of Thor's hammer, so the God of Thunder was pretty evenly matched, if not at a disadvantage, and we can't have that, so Thor suggested to Eddie Brock, who was also there for the fight, that he combine with his sim in order to gain the upper hand. Eddie agreed, and the God in Black was born. Through the help of some fiery illusions, Thor was able to defeat Darkoth, and the sim fled the scene to go cause problems somewhere else. Peter Parker, another classic, very powerful Venom host. Peter is so strong in both the mental and physical departments. Like, mentally speaking, he still gets up every day to fight for the city after all the mental strain it's put him under, and physically, he's able to punch off someone's metal jaw, so yeah, he's pretty strong if you ask me. Plus, Peter with the Venom suit is just iconic. No one is touching that black suit. Seeing him don the Venom suit for the first time in Secret Wars was such a great moment. Spider-Man bonding with Venom actually gave the sim an advantage. It won't trigger Spidey's spider sense. This also applies to any offspring of Venoms, making the whole family tree that much harder for Peter Parker to deal with. Ghost Rider was an unexpected host choice, but the pairing ended up literally curing a major weakness of the Sims. One way to gain the upper hand in a fight against a Sim is to use fire or intense heat. Now you might recall, Ghost Rider is fire. His head literally lights up and he can generate fire from his body. It's a miracle a Sim was even able to bond with him without burning up, and it's a nightmare that they did, because now one major weakness has flown out the window. Also, imagine that coming at you. Plus, he has the Ghost Rider chains augmented by the Sim. I don't think they would have to touch me. I would simply collapse from fear. The Sim obviously wasn't here from the start. Initially, Robbie Reyes was only facing an internal battle with the demonic spirit of his uncle Eli Morrow. A balance was struck between the two, but then Venom came into the picture and Robbie was outnumbered, and he went from Ghost Rider to Host Rider. Robbie's still in there, but rarely holds the reins. Instead, Eli and Venom work together, going around consuming the souls of sinners using a penance kiss. They're a little confused, but you know, they got the spirit. The character exists on Earth 53,912. He was recruited by Captain Venom and was apparently based on a variant cover done for Ghost Rider Volume 8. Now, what could possibly make a Sim stronger than literally fixing a major weakness? Well, it's doing that, but also bonding to Red Hulk. Marvel was wild for this, but it was also really cool. In Venom Volume 2, Issue 13.4, dreams came true in the form of a Venom Red Hulk Ghost Rider mashup. So now, not only is Venom immune to fire again, he also has all the strength of the Hulk. Now things had to get pretty bad to warrant a Ghost Venom Hulk. The reason the opportunity even arose was because the underworld had taken over Las Vegas, and Blackheart, the Demon Prince, was destroying everything. Combining the powers of all three heroes did end up saving the day. Unfortunately, this mashup didn't last very long, but just knowing it's possible is enough.
Today, we're cracking open the darkest corners of the Clinter Hive to answer the ultimate symbiote showdown. Which symbiotes could actually take down Venom? Venom may be the most iconic, but he's not the top of the food chain. From chemical warfare experts to cosmic nightmares, we're exploring the symbiotes that could leave Venom in the dust. Stick around. Some of these picks will change the way you see the Marvel Universe forever. Let's start with a symbiote whose hair is deadlier than a Hydra's bite. Scream. As one of Venom's first offspring, Scream bonded with Donna Diego and developed the ability to manipulate her hair-like tendrils as lethal whips and restraints. She's got all the classic symbiote powers: super strength, wall crawling, and camouflage, but her real claim to fame: she wiped out her own siblings in a fit of rage, proving she's not just powerful, but downright ruthless. Scream's unpredictability and her ability to attack from a distance with those razor-sharp tendrils would give Venom a run for his money, especially in a battle where surprise and savagery count for everything. But if you think Scream's weaponized hair is wild, wait until you meet a symbiote who's all about turning his own body into a deadly arsenal. Fage is our spot 9 today. Fage is also what happens when you take the symbiote formula and crank the lethality up to 11. Born from the Life Foundation's experiments, Fage can generate bladed weapons from his body that can slice through almost anything. Think Wolverine, but with a symbiote twist. He's immune to Spider-Man's spider sense and boasts an accelerated healing factor, making him a nightmare in close combat. After bonding with Deadpool, Fage became strong enough to take down Carnage, which is no small feat. If Venom ever found himself in a straight-up brawl with Fage, he'd be facing a relentless bladed juggernaut who just won't quit. But not every symbiote is about brute force. Some prefer to win the fight before it even starts, and that's where our next contender comes in. Number 8. Sleeper. Sleeper is Venom's most unpredictable offspring, and he's got tricks no other symbiote can match. Sleeper can produce neurotoxins that put enemies to sleep, manipulate matter, and even communicate telepathically. Unlike most symbiotes, Sleeper can survive without a host and has a moral compass, often acting to protect rather than destroy. But don't let that fool you. When Sleeper goes on the offensive, his chemical arsenal and stealth abilities could neutralize Venom before he even knows what hit him. Imagine Venom gearing up for a fight only to be taken out by a cloud of sleep-inducing gas or a psychic sneak attack. A common weakness all symbiotes share is heat and loud noises, but it's been suggested that Sleeper can produce chemicals that can stop these hazards from reaching him. Venom wouldn't know what hit him, and if you think Sleeper's chemical warfare is scary, just wait until you see what happens when symbiote power gets mixed with a little bit of hellfire. You get our number 7 today, Mania. Mania is what you get when you cross symbiote DNA with a touch of the infernal. Originally a clone of Venom, Mania was granted the Hell Mark by Mephisto, giving her demonic powers and control over lesser demons. She can summon hellfire, resist magical attacks, and even command armies of the damned. She was literally created to help eradicate all life on Earth. While she eventually lost some of these abilities, the thought of a symbiote with infernal magic is enough to make even Venom sweat. If Mania ever regained her full powers, she'd be a nightmare opponent, literally bringing supernatural chaos to the battlefield. Mania was defeated at one point, but then was revived, making her a symbiote, which is next level terrifying. But what if Venom's greatest threat wasn't a monster, but a cure? Enter the next symbiote on our list, number 6, Antivenom. Antivenom is the ultimate paradox, a symbiote that can destroy other symbiotes. Created when Eddie Brock's illness was cured by Mr. Negative, Antivenom is a living antibody. He's immune to fire, heat, and sound-based attacks, the classic symbiote weaknesses, and his touch is caustic to other symbiotes. Antivenom can cure people of diseases, radiation, and even other symbiotes. In a showdown, Venom's attacks would be useless, while Antivenom could simply purge him from existence, dissolving the very thing that makes Venom who he is. If you want raw, unfiltered power, our number 5, the next symbiote is the one to watch. Toxin is the 1000th symbiote in the Clintar line and is stronger than both Venom and Carnage combined. He can double in size, has a toxic bite, limitless healing, and is immune to Spider-Man's webs and spider sense. He is also able to track anyone as long as he has your scent. Toxin's raw power is so immense that even Null, the god of symbiotes, considered him a threat. When bonded with Patrick Mulligan, Toxin struggled with his own morality, but if he ever cut loose, Venom wouldn't stand a chance. He has also shown resistance to the common symbiote weaknesses, heat and sound. Toxin is the ultimate wildcard, unpredictable, unstoppable, and always on the edge. But speaking of unpredictable, let's talk about the symbiote who's made chaos his calling card. Number 4, Carnage. Carnage is Venom's most infamous offspring, bonded to the psychotic Cletus Cassidy. Carnage is stronger, faster, and far more unpredictable than Venom. He can shape his limbs into weapons, regenerate from almost any injury, and is undetectable to Spider-Man's spider sense. Carnage's sheer brutality and lack of restraint make him a terrifying adversary, one who's beaten Venom more than once. When Carnage is on the loose, even Venom knows he's in for the fight of his life. If you think Carnage is the end of the line, you haven't seen what happens when symbiotes go cosmic. At number 3 is something truly terrifying. Grendel is a symbiote dragon created by Null, capable of crossing galaxies and laying waste to entire armies. Grendel doesn't need a host, making it utterly relentless. It can manipulate matter, communicate telepathically, and even survive the battle with Thor. This is a symbiote that operates on a whole different scale. Venom might be tough, but against a cosmic dragon with reality warping powers, he's outclassed. Grendel is the kind of threat that makes even the bravest heroes think twice. If Grendel is the dragon, who's the dragon's master? Let's meet the god of all symbiotes, our runner-up today, Null. Null is the creator of all symbiotes, wielding the power to control the entire symbiote hive mind. He can manipulate eldritch darkness, create symbiotes from his own blood, and even forged a sword from a symbiote that was powerful enough to knock a Celestial's head from its shoulders. Null's power is so vast that he's battled gods and survived for over 13 billion years. Venom is just a drop in the ocean compared to Null's abyss. If Null ever decided to take Venom out personally, it wouldn't even be a contest, it would be an extinction event. Venom was only able to defeat Null in the end when he became a cosmic version of himself wielding an even more impressive weapon. Thor's hammer and Silver Surfer's board merged together into a battle axe. He was eventually defeated when Venom literally flew him into the core of the sun, but even then a tiny piece stuck around, only to be destroyed by Eddie Brock. Now it seems Null is truly gone, or is he? If you want to talk about overwhelming odds, there's one more symbiote that brings the power of many into one. Our top spot today goes to none other than Hybrid. Hybrid is the fusion of Agony, Fage, Riot, and Lasher. All Life Foundation symbiotes merged into one being. Hybrid has all the powers of its components. Agony's acid spit, Phage's bladed weaponry, Riot's super speed and blunt force, and Lasher's multi-tentacle attacks and ability to control multiple hosts at once. When Hybrid bonded with Scott Washington, it became a force that could take on multiple symbiotes at consents and win. Imagine Venom facing not one but 4 symbiotes working in perfect sync. Hybrid's combined abilities and raw power would make it a nightmare for Venom, overwhelming him with a relentless multi-pronged assault that he simply couldn't match. In a true symbiote war, Hybrid is the ultimate team-up, and Venom would be hard-pressed to survive the onslaught. And there you have it, the symbiotes that could defeat Venom, from demonic clones to cosmic gods, and a 4-in-1 powerhouse.
Number 10. Codex. Step into the thrilling reality of Earth 1051, where Dylan's dark side is unleashed, transforming him into the formidable villain known as Codex, a force to be reckoned with. In this reality, Anne Wang becomes Venom instead of Eddie Brock after Peter Parker rejects the symbiote. As time goes on, Venom takes on an armor-like appearance and changes their name to Agent Venom. With the Venom symbiote, Anne ends up giving birth to a child, a half-human, half-symbiote boy named Dylan. However, in this reality, Dylan doesn't become the hero that we know him to be, but instead a villain after falling under the influence of the powerful symbiote god, Null. Under the name of Codex, he seeks to conquer the world, and Anne, as Agent Venom, is one of the heroes who rises up to stop him. But despite their best efforts, Codex proves to be an insurmountable foe, and the fight to save the world becomes an epic battle of good versus evil. And friends, before I move on to our next point on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us you love us by clicking that like. Number 9. Zombie Carnage. Elsa Bloodstone ends up running into the zombified version of Carnage, or what's left of it, in Volume 2 of Marvel Zombies, issue number 2 from 2015. Her and the kid she is traveling with, whom she calls Shut Up, no seriously, that's what she calls them, ends up in a trap Carnage has laid out that Elsa referred to as its scab web. Yes, it is as gross as it sounds. This version of the villain has been reduced to just the upper torso and appears to be covered in little blood blisters. It finds itself defeated after its head is removed from its body and used as a projectile by Elsa, and its body, or its scab web, is unleashed but subsequently is set on fire by a man who appears to be Ranger Warren Worthington but is actually a zombie Mystique in disguise. Dun dun dun. While this version of Carnage is defeated here, who knows how many before Elsa arrived had fallen prey to it. Also, I love how it kind of takes like another zombie to take out another zombie, you know what I mean? Number 8. What if the alien costume had possessed Spider-Man? In What If issue number 4, we find out the answer to this question. Here, Peter didn't realize until it was too late what his black suit truly was. No longer able to seemingly separate from Venom, Peter remains stuck with the symbiote. Although he attempts to get help, Venom uses its camouflage powers to make them impossible to find, also taking control of Peter whenever he attempts to contact Black Cat to actually get help. When Venom does end up in a battle with the other heroes, the symbiote jumps ship to Hulk, making it now one of the most powerful symbiotes there is, and leaving Peter drained of life energy. Appearing as a frail old man, Peter would soon pass away, dying of old age once he was abandoned. In another confrontation, Venom once more leaves Hulk for Thor, attempting to bond with him permanently. Even worse, it would take Black Cat's strong convictions and powerful weapon to defeat this alternate version of Venom. Number 7. Venom. One of the alternate versions of Venom is actually actually also a version of Gwen Stacy. This version of the character hails from the Earth 65 reality, Spider-Gwen's home reality. Here for a time, Gwen Stacy, often known as Spider-Woman, Spider-Gwen, or currently Ghost Spider, bonded with the Venom symbiote. In this reality, the Venom symbiote was created in a lab by Dr. Elsa Brock. It was used to return Gwen's spider-like powers to her through bonding with her. This version of the symbiote is seemingly made up of jelly-like little spiders which can come together and even shapeshift. However, this version of Venom was created based on basically alien spiders. Initially, Gwen attempted to resist the offer to bond with the Venom symbiote because it was offered to her by her enemy, Matt Murdock, who in this reality is a bad guy. I know we're used to Matt Murdock being a good guy, being Daredevil and all that stuff, but here, not his deal. Number 6. Aunt May. I bet you would never think of Aunt May when it comes to a strongest symbiotes list, but hey, here we are. This version of Aunt May is basically a monster, being an alternate version of the character from Earth 616, but also an alternate of technically another alternate, Aunt May Spider-Man. When encountering this alternate version of herself, Spider-Man, Earth 3123's Aunt May, and Miles Morales of the Ultimate Universe 1610 must team up to take on this alternate Aunt May version of Carnage. Carnage May and her Earth's Peter and Uncle Ben work together trying to basically take out their other counterparts across the multiverse, as they believe the existence of the multiverse proves that nothing really matters. That's how they see it anyways. They are a force of chaos and death, and this version of Carnage is so deadly that she actually proves to be too much for Miles and Spider-Man alone. Number 5. Edward Saks. Edward Saks is a little bit higher up because of just how terrifyingly massive and evil he is. This version of Venom has taken up a job in politics and appears in the Spider-Man Reign story as the aide to the mayor of New York, who here is Mayor Waters. He hails from Earth 70237. Edward Saks, as he is referred to, though, appears to actually be the one who is pulling the mayor's strings, and seems to have more control than most aides over what goes on in the city of New York. He has also been working to bring back the Sinister Six. Oh boy. He also made thousands of copies of the Venom symbiote and is responsible for Web, a security group responsible for preventing anyone from leaving the city. It's a very dystopian, dark reality, Spider-Man Reign. So if you want to be a little bit depressed, go check that out. Number 4. Ultimate Venom. There are a couple different versions of Ultimate Venom on the Earth of 1610, the Conrad Marcus version and the Eddie Brock Jr. version. This alternate version of the Venom symbiote was created to be a cure for cancer, as opposed to being an alien entity from outer space, and as such, its healing and regenerative properties supersede even the Earth 616 version. Like in the Tom Hardy Venomverse, however, this suit can only bond with specific people, and if it isn't compatible with you, it'll kill you. This gigantic powerhouse of a symbiote has been shown to be stronger than both Miles Morales and Peter Parker of Earth 616 combined. Number 3. Grendel Symbiote. While this is still technically Cletus Cassidy as Carnage from Earth 616, some may consider the Grendel symbiote to be a different version of Carnage altogether, since the Carnage symbiote itself at this point in the story is kinda dead and gone. And honestly, so is Cletus. He's basically a corpse that was revived and then like kinda stuffed inside a symbiote. He still has a consciousness and everything, but I'm not sure if we'd quite call him alive here. This version of Carnage is probably one of the most horrifying when you consider its purpose. The Grendel symbiote takes the place of Carnage and is used by Cletus to basically hunt down all the codices on Earth, which exist inside former hosts of symbiote spines. I think you can imagine how that kind of goes when you need to get those codices. Acquiring the codices bolstered his own power and ultimately allowed him to achieve his main goal of waking up the god of the symbiotes. No. Number 2. God of Carnage, or the Carnage God, or God of Carnage is kind of like the story involving this character. God of Carnage technically hails from Earth 616 as well, but honestly extends beyond that in terms of how far the entity's reaches, I would say. It is an offshoot of Carnage, but basically answers the question of what happens when Carnage decides to ditch Cletus Cassidy. Honestly, the God of Carnage, or the Carnage God, while technically an incarnation of Carnage, is like the Grendel symbiote symbiote version, so far removed from the original version of this symbiote that it's even hard to really consider them one and the same being, save for appearance and I suppose their shared kinda chaotic alignment. The Carnage God wields the All Blood, his own God Butcher weapon, an alternate version of the All Black Necro Sword. This alternate version of Carnage is also very different in the fact that it doesn't have a host. At this point, seeing hosts as a distraction from its own purpose and plans, who were basically previously holding Carnage back, so they don't mess with hosts no more. Number 1. Carnage Cosmic. There was a time when Carnage actually ended up going cosmic in terms of his power source and level. The Carnage symbiote at one point jumped ship to Norrin Radd, one of the Heralds of Galactus. While in the main continuity the bond between them did not last, there is a what if comic that imagines what could have happened had the bond between them remained. In the end, in this alternate reality, in order to prevent Carnage from having too much power and control over him, the Silver Surfer regains control for long enough just to hurl himself, along with Carnage, into the sun. However, apparently that wasn't actually the end, as somehow the two survived this, reappearing again in the 2013 comic Longshot Saves the Marvel Universe issue number 3, probably honestly thanks to the Silver Surfer's powers, not necessarily the powers of Carnage, since the symbiote is like very susceptible to fire damage. So you think going to the sun, you think that'd be it, but apparently not.
Number 10. Sleeper. Sleeper, the youngest offspring of Venom, is like the overachiever in the Venom family. Unlike its siblings, Sleeper got a cushy upbringing, incubated safely before bonding with a host. This special treatment comes with its perks. First off, Sleeper skips the whole Spider-Man eye thing. Its appearance is different, and it doesn't have to have those big old white eyes. Also, Sleeper isn't your typical symbiote, it's more mature and chill, maybe a tad smug. What makes Sleeper stand out in the symbiote crowd is its brain power. It's not just a headfirst, impulsive fighter. Thanks to increased cognitive functionality, Sleeper takes a calculated approach to combat. It's so smart that it actually went as far as lobotomizing its host, Tel-Kar, and used him like a puppet to dodge the Kree warrior's influence. Beyond its unique appearance and brains though, Sleeper has cool abilities like bending light to disappear and releasing neurotoxins to knock out its enemies. Oh, and the cutest part, Sleeper can transform into a little kitty cat. How cool is that? It's very cool. It's cute. I like it. Number 9. Toxin. Toxin, the son of Carnage, is like the rock star of symbiotes. He's the 1000th in the line of Venom's descendants, and his raw power is so intense that even the big boss of symbiotes, Null, aka the King in Black, is a little bit freaked out by him. Carnage, Toxin's dad, for lack of a better word, discovers his symbiote pregnancy and, being the oddball that he is, feels both terrified that his kid might outpower him and kind of grossed out that, being a male symbiote, he's technically pregnant, which is weird. Anyhow, Carnage plans to get rid of Toxin, but Venom steps in like the superhero dad that he is. Toxin gets trained by Venom and bonds with a New York City cop named Patrick Mulligan. Thanks to this, Toxin's powers stay in check, and he's all about doing good. His childlike vibe keeps him from going on full power, which is a good thing because this guy is a powerhouse. Toxin is resistant to heat and sound, has killer tracking skills, and basically combines the strengths of both Venom and Carnage together. Plus, he developed a venomous bite very recently, but surviving that is a whole other story. Mulligan gets taken out eventually, and Toxin gets a new gig bonding with Eddie Brock before finding a new host named Bren Waters during the King in Black event. Number 8. Scream/Silence. Scream is one of 5 symbiotes that was created by the Evil Life Foundation after traces of Venom were extracted from Eddie Brock. Scream is by far the most unstable of Venom's offspring, but also one of the most powerful as well. It's at its strongest while bonded with Donna Diego, but even after Donna's passing at Eddie's own hands, Scream still poses a major threat to the world. Now, Andrea Benton was eventually separated from the Mania symbiote after she was possessed by a demonic Hellmark, later bonding with the reborn Scream symbiote. Later, Carnage corrupted the Scream symbiote and Andy used her Hellfire to wipe it out for good, or so she thought. Alchemax actually used the symbiote's remains alongside a sample of the Antivenom symbiote to create a somewhat brand new symbiote known as Silence, which Andy bonded with, gaining a new corruptive touch, deadly to other symbiotes, as well as the usual symbiote powers, plus the Scream symbiote's hair tendril things. Number 7. Poison. Ever since the first time Venom and Spider-Man bonded, that pesky symbiote would continuously try to merge with Peter Parker, but he would only get halfway before Peter could repel him. Now, what happens if Venom finally gets what he wants? Well, in the What If Spider-Man the Other story, we get to find out. After Peter is semi-defeated by Morlun and he cocoons himself under the Brooklyn Bridge, he is offered the chance to be resurrected by the Spider God, but instead of allowing this like he does in the normal continuity, in this story, Peter refuses and is instead stuck in his cocoon, half alive. Now cut to Venom, who, being Spider-Man's crazy ex-girlfriend, senses the vulnerability of his soulmate and completely ditches his current host, Mac Gargan the Scorpion. He intercepts Peter's body, and after months of struggling inside the cocoon together, monstrously breaking down Peter Parker, Venom fully bonds to Peter. Now the pair are truly one, with all the fully realized powers that come with being a symbiote, which include being able to replicate itself and host more than one body, producing stingers that are strong enough to pierce Luke Cage's skin, and the newly dubbed being known as Poison was even able to resurrect Gwen Stacy in a form that seems to take after Venom's offspring, Carnage. Number 6. Gwenom. Spider-Gwen of Earth-65, or Ghost Spider, which is way cooler, has easily one of the best costumes of all the Spider heroes. Throw in a healthy dash of a symbiotic monster from outer space, notorious for giving great fashion advice, and well, look at her. She looks absolutely amazing. On top of that, Gwen sort of relies on Venom for her powers since her original powers started to fade. But while that sounds bad, Gwen has actually learned to find a very healthy balance with her symbiote. The symbiote itself enhances whatever emotions the host has, right? So, when she first bonded with Venom thanks to a corrupt Matt Murdock Kingpin, who she was forced to team up with, she was rage-fueled and looking for revenge against the Rhino for attacking her father, and eventually against Murdock himself. But over time, she realized that she needed to control that and give Venom better qualities to enhance in order to control and find balance with the symbiote. In a way, Venom actually helped her to become a better hero, all while still retaining that really sweet suit. Number 5. Antivenom. The Antivenom symbiote was created when Venom bonded with Eddie Brock after the man was cured of cancer by Mr. Negative. Now thanks to Mr. Negative's healing powers, Eddie's antibodies gave birth to a new kind of symbiote when Venom tried to rebond. Inverting the black and white of the original Venom symbiote, Antivenom is now mainly white instead of black. Oh, right, and he has different anti-symbiote powers. His touch is basically caustic to symbiotes and can destroy them with long enough exposure. Antivenom can cure people affected by things like radioactivity, parasites, and diseases. And he still has all the enhancements afforded by a symbiote. To make the symbiote even more impressive, Antivenom is resistant to heat and sound, the symbiote's most significant weaknesses. After Flash Thompson, Agent Venom eventually lost the Venom symbiote, he bonded with an artificial replica of the Antivenom symbiote that he continues to use even after his passing and recent resurrection. Number 4. Carnage. When Eddie Brock was briefly detached from the Venom symbiote, he was imprisoned and his cellmate was none other than Cletus Cassidy, a psychotic murderer serving 11 consecutive life sentences on Rikers Island. When Venom showed up and bust Eddie out of prison, it accidentally produced its first offspring as a result of, get this, Thanos seeking the Infinity Gems out in space. Which is the weirdest reason, but that's actually what happened. This offspring would be Carnage, and it was left in the cell when Venom and Eddie escaped, bonding with Cletus Cassidy through a wound that he sustained on his hand. This meant that the bond they formed was on a blood level, and would be nearly impossible to break. Despite that, there have been other characters that have taken on the symbiote. Norman Osborn was a notable one when he became the Red Goblin and was absolutely terrifying, and I would be silly to not mention that the Grendel dragon had part of itself merge with Carnage to create an incredibly terrifying version of the symbiote known as Dark Carnage that absolutely put up a hell of a fight against Venom and others. And now Carnage is back yet again, and he is reaching a level of power that puts him on the cosmic map as he's constantly upgrading himself with all kinds of tech and magic to be able to face Eddie Brock, who has become the King in Black of the symbiote race. Number 3. Grendel. Billions of years ago, the Clintar or symbiote god Null spilled some cosmic innards. Out of those innards came Grendel, a symbiote dragon with a one-way ticket for chaos across the cosmos. Basically, Null was pulling the strings, using these dragons as his cosmic wrecking crew. Grendel, being a symbiotic dragon, is no run-of-the-mill symbiote. This beast has been on a rampage for eons, smashing gods in Null's name. It's not exactly Grendel himself doing the stomping, it's more like Null's puppeteering pulling the strings. Now, Grendel isn't your average symbiote, like I said. Forget the weaknesses to fire and the sonic stuff. This dragon can breathe fire, shoot energy blasts, move at warp speed through space, and is tougher than a steel wall. But wait, it gets even crazier. Grendel can team up with other dragons and symbiotes to form this mega entity of destruction. Grendel is basically the epitome of terrifying awesomeness. Number 2, All Black. All Black the Necrosword is not your everyday symbiote. It's like the granddaddy of all symbiotes in the Marvel Comics universe. Created by the Dark God Null, this bad boy is not just some suit, it's a cosmic tool of destruction. The Necrosword was crafted from the living abyss itself, shaped into a mighty sword that makes Excalibur look like a butter knife. It's dark and it's powerful. Now, what makes All Black unique is that it doesn't just play nice with hosts like your regular symbiote. When someone wields All Black, they're basically wielding the power of the cosmos. This thing can cut through Celestials like a hot knife through butter. The Necrosword has been on quite the journey, passing from hand to hand, creating chaos and legendary battles across the Marvel universe. It's not just a tool, it's a symbol of power and a game changer in cosmic conflicts. Number 1, Venom. Publication-wise, in Marvel Comics, Venom was the first of his kind to appear, and the one that set the symbiotic ball rolling. After being rejected by Spider-Man, the alien Venom bonded to Eddie Brock, a disgraced reporter who also hated the hero and his Peter Parker alter ego. Now, it took quite a while, but after years of villainy, the two became a lethal protector, anti-hero, and eventually just a straight-up hero. Venom is not the strongest of all symbiotes by any means, but he's certainly one of the most persevering. Venom has been tested against more dangerous symbiotes and always comes out on top because of his resilience. He's proved he can conquer the urges of his race and become a force for good. Venom has recently bonded with Eddie's son, Dylan Brock, and they are both acting as a hero on Earth, with Dylan discovering his own unique powers as Codex. Now, long before that though, the Venom symbiote had also been taken in by the United States government, sedated, and was bonded to decorated soldier Eugene Flash Thompson. Now, Thompson's training and great guy morals mixed with the neutered mind of the Venom symbiote gave him control over the alien suit in a way that others just hadn't been able to do. He mixed the symbiote's capabilities with his own skill to become Agent Venom, which was also technically just Venom, so I'm including him here as well, and there have been a whole bunch of other hosts too, but I don't really care about them because they're not as cool.
Number 10, Gwen Stacy. When most people think of Venom, they don't even think of Gwen Stacy. After all, in the comics, Gwen has been dead for years at this point, if we're talking main continuity. But I'm not talking about main reality Gwen, I'm talking about the Gwen Stacy who is alive and well, and who many of us know as the hero Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider. For a time, Gwen was without her powers, and it was then that she became bonded to Venom in an attempt to recover said powers temporarily. Gwen was hesitant to bond with the Earth-65 version of Venom, which actually gets its origin from venomous spider aliens in this universe, if you can believe that. This is because the solution to get her powers back through Venom was actually offered to her initially by her enemy, Matt Murdock. Yeah, in this reality, Matt's not the hero Daredevil, but instead is the villain known as Kingpin. Dun dun dun. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, and if you love it when we talk about symbiotes, be sure to let us know by giving this video a like. Number 9, Lee Price. I wish I could forget about Lee Price, probably the worst symbiote host around, but I'm sorry, I gotta remind you of the fact that this happened. By the way, if you, as I guessed, may have forgotten about this host, well, I'm sorry. Lee Price was an evil dude who was probably one of the meanest and cruelest symbiote hosts Venom ever had. Lee Price used the symbiote for evil and also tormented it, making it question its own alignment, and afterward making Venom believe that it perhaps was just inherently evil due to Lee Price's actions while bonded with the symbiote. Price also emotionally mistreated the symbiote, so it was in pain during its time with Price, constantly living in fear of its own host, and afterward when its time bonded with Price had ended and he had left his mark on Venom's consciousness. I know Venom hasn't always been the nicest being around, but not even Venom honestly deserved Lee Price. Number 8, Miss Marvel. This is a wild one that I even forgot about until I dug deep back into my comic book memory while putting together this list for you all. For this point, we're focusing on not Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel or the more obscure Sharon Ventura's Miss Marvel if you prefer. We are focusing on when Carol Danvers was known by the name of Miss Marvel. During Siege, she ended up forcibly bonded to the Venom symbiote. Now this happened as a result of Carol attempting to separate Venom from its current host at the time, Mac Gargan, because this was also during Dark Reign. She pulled Mac out of the suit only to find herself then, bonded to it. Venom seemed thrilled by this development, enjoying the immense power of their newfound host. However, Venom's good time as She-Venom Carol was cut short by Spider-Man, who intervened and saved Carol from Venom's influence. Thank goodness. Although that hair, I do love that hair that Venom got when he was bonded with Miss Marvel. Number 7, The Thing. The Thing ended up being bonded to Carnage when Carnage overtook the town of Doverton, Colorado. Ben Grimm was one of the new Avengers who was called in to help deal with the situation, and as soon as issue number 1 of this series, which centered around the story of Carnage's invasion of the town known as Carnage USA, Grimm was overtaken by Carnage and forcefully bonded to the symbiote. He would end up getting free before the series ended, of course, and would help in the fight against Carnage as the heroes tried to regain control of the town, but it was still a pretty surprising turn of events, and it's often something we forget about because it happened only in that one series and only pretty briefly. The fact that The Thing was once a part of Carnage, that's pretty wild. Number 6, Captain America. Now, if you think Ben Grimm becoming bonded to the Carnage symbiote is shocking, wait till you hear this story. Not only was Ben Grimm there when this happened, but there was a whole team brought in to deal with Carnage taking over the town. This team was led by Captain America and also included Hawkeye, Spider-Man, and Wolverine. And almost the whole superhero response team here ended up infected by the Carnage symbiote, except for Spider-Man. Yep, that includes Steve Rogers' Captain America. At one point though, Cap is able to break free from Carnage's control when Carnage attempts to use his influence to will Captain America to harm innocents. However, even then, it's shown to be extremely difficult for Cap to break free of Carnage's will, even for a few moments. Number 5, Tannis Knives. Tannis Knives was a symbiote host who I actually really enjoyed, and yet, alas, we'll likely never get to see her again as a host since, well, she's dead and she's gone. Really unfortunate too, because I actually thought she was among the most interesting of symbiote-related characters. Tannis was Shriek's psychiatrist and a brief host of Carnage who basically used her as a ride to get to Cletus, but that's not what we're focusing on here. Because Carnage left Tannis with a little gift after leaving her, its child who lived in her prosthetic arm. As a result, when she ended up as the reluctant hero Scorn, Tannis had a connection to technology, which made her unique among other symbiotes and their hosts. She could communicate with and bond with tech. Number 4, Alejandra Jones. Alejandra Jones, or Ghost Rider, is honestly someone I love in the comics. I especially love her as Ghost Rider. I feel like she's so underrated. Though tragically, I also feel like we never really saw enough done with her as Ghost Rider or just in general. She was hunted down during Absolute Carnage for being a symbiote host, or for having been one anyway, and this came as a shock to her and to us because while Carnage may have been right, we never really even got to enjoy her in the role of a symbiote host. People were like, wait, what? In fact, she was only targeted because she'd been considered a host sort of second hand through the Spirit of Vengeance. At one point, the Venom symbiote had basically been bonded to the Spirit of Vengeance, and as a result, through the Spirit, it had passed on traces of the Venom symbiote to Alejandra, which are known as a codex. If you know Absolute Carnage, you know where I'm going with this. As a result of her somewhat distant connection to Venom, Alejandra was hunted down as a former host by Carnage, who sought her codex, which of course was located in her spine. So I think you know how that went for her. It didn't go so well, and now she's gone. Number 3, Cassandra Nova. This one was a fun surprise for me to read about. I mean, I read it when it happened, so I knew, and I never really forgot, but I have to imagine that the second volume of Marauders was somewhat of a mixed bag for most people out there and wasn't that popular. It was very different from the first volume, with a totally different creative team behind it and a whole new roster for the superhero team itself. Although to be honest, I enjoyed it, but it was very different. Especially surprising was the inclusion of the villain Cassandra Nova on said team. But even weirder was when they all went to space on a mission to track down and rescue the first ever mutants, and during said mission came across a symbiote, one that Cassandra ended up bonding with. Eventually, I believe they went their separate ways, but that whole subplot was honestly a pretty wild ride. It also makes Cassandra Nova, who's already terrifying, even more terrifying. Number 2, Mary Jane. Mary Jane is an even more unlikely symbiote host than Gwen when it comes to, those that you would think or wouldn't think of when it comes to symbiotes. That's because Mary Jane has literally been terrorized by the Venom symbiote before. In fact, of all Spider-Man villains in the main continuity, MJ seems to be the most frightened by Venom. She even begged Peter not to wear his black suit because it reminded her too much of the villain. So why in the world would she ever bond with a symbiote? Well, once again, this is an alternate reality MJ. This MJ is also from Earth 65, and in this reality, for a little while, she was bonded to the Carnage symbiote, if you can believe that. So different. I don't think we'd ever see MJ do that on Earth 616, but you never know, actually. Maybe it would happen. It'd be crazy if it happened. Number 1, Dinosaur. Initially, the Venomized T-Rex that we saw in Old Man Logan was kind of just a background character, really given no explanation whatsoever for how and why it existed. We can assume that the Savage Land is involved, but that's about it. Fortunately, later on, when we return to the alternate future of Old Man Logan in the Old Man Hawkeye series, which is actually, I think, set a little bit before Old Man Logan, we finally got a bit more context for how exactly this Venomized T-Rex came to be, and then later shows up in Old Man Logan. It turns out that Clint accidentally brought the symbiote and Tyrannosaurus Rex together in order to save people that Kate Bishop was protecting in the Wastelands. He drives off a Venom invasion by getting them to chase him out into the desert. His hope is to find dinosaurs which were moved to the desert from the Savage Lands, hoping they will deal with, well, Venom. And while this seems to be what happens in Hawkeye's comic, we know because of the events of Old Man Logan that the T-Rex Hawkeye manages to summon here doesn't actually defeat Venom, but likely instead just bonds with it. Or at least it's the catalyst for Venom becoming bonded to, well, maybe some other T-Rex in the future by the time we see it again.